The title of my book comes from an essay that the Soviet dissident Alexander Solzhenitsyn published in 1974, just before the Soviets kicked him out of the country. He sent it by samizdat, by the underground press, to his followers. And he told them that this was his advice for them, to live in truth. What does it mean to live not by lies? According to Solzhenitsyn, it meant that you will not say, affirm, write, or distribute anything that distorts the truth. You will not go to a demonstration or participate in any public action unless you really believe in what is being said there. You will not participate in a meeting in which the truth is distorted or people are afraid to speak their minds. Solzhenitsyn said that this is something that is going to cause people to suffer, but it's better to suffer and keep your dignity and keep your honor and keep your honesty than it is to speak lies just for the sake of going along to get along. In a similar way, in the same period of time, the Czech dissident Václav Havel, who was a playwright and the leader of the Czech dissident movement, he published an essay called The Power of the Powerless, in which he advised his followers to live in truth. His advice was very similar to Solzhenitsyn's. He came up with the parable of the greengrocer. He said, let's imagine that there is a greengrocer in a city under communism. And like every other business in town, the greengrocer has a sign up in his window that says, "Workers of the world, unite." This is the communist slogan. Well, nobody believes it, but they put it in their window because nobody wants trouble. Well, the little greengrocer one day decides that he's tired of just saying something he doesn't believe to avoid trouble, so he takes a sign down from his window. What happens to him? Well, the government comes in, they take away his business, they forbid his kids from going to college, they impose all kinds of punishments on him. He really suffers for what he believes. But what does he gain from that? He has shown that it is possible to live in truth. It is possible, if you're willing to suffer, to defy the system. And by doing that, he shows other people who sympathize with him but are demoralized and think that it's not possible to resist. He's shown them that it's possible to resist. This is the sort of thing that we have to accept today in our society, that we need to be prepared to live in truth and to suffer the consequences for standing up for what we believe in. That's the only honorable way forward. If we're going to live in truth, how do we prepare ourselves and our families for that? Father Kirill Kaleda is a Russian Orthodox priest who tends the church and the national monument to those who were murdered in political violence. Father Kirill told me that he came from an anti-communist family, a faithful Orthodox family, and because of that, he knew in the Soviet Union when he was growing up that there were some fields of study when he got ready to go to college that would be off limits to him. Why? Because he knew that he would have to compromise his conscience if he was going to succeed professionally in those fields. In the same way today in our country, we have got to advise our children and to do this for them, not to go into fields where they are going to have to compromise their consciences. There is a doctor I know, his mother spent 4 years in a Czech concentration camp because she refused to stop going to her church group back in the 50s. And he's been very successful in medicine, but he says he does not want his children to become doctors because he is certain, he sees the way things are going in medicine, he's certain that they're going to have to compromise their consciences as Catholics if they want a career in medicine. Now, I'm not saying people should not become doctors, but what I am saying is these are the sort of things that we have to start thinking about in this country now, in the same way that Father Kirill and his family thought about them in the Soviet Union. If we are not prepared to be hated for our faith in Christ, then we're not going to survive. We're going to apostatize. That is part of living in truth, being prepared to be hated. Finally, we have to refuse doublethink. In the Soviet world, people had to live double lives. They had to live a certain way in the workplace and in public when they were being observed. But if they disagreed with what was being said, they kept it to themselves. This is a strategy that one dissident, Czesław Miłosz, a Polish dissident, called hetman. It's a Persian word meaning that a strategy for keeping yourself viable within the system without compromising your conscience. The problem with hetman is that if you continue to live out these lies, if you live out this role you're playing, you'll come to believe the role, that the role is real. And ultimately, you will compromise your conscience. This is something we have to worry about. We have to be concerned about. We have to prepare ourselves for, so that we don't lie to ourselves and tell ourselves that we're just saying what we need to say to keep our jobs, but really our conscience is inviolate. The anti-communist dissidents warn that this is not going to happen, that if you continue to live this way, if you accept doublethink, eventually it will corrupt you. Now, if you can't imagine a situation in which you would behave like Havel's greengrocer and take down the sign, or if you can't imagine a situation in which you would live as Solzhenitsyn told his followers to live by refusing to accept lies, then chances are cowardice already rules your soul.